I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Rutherford County Public Safety Committee for August. Good to see everybody here this evening. Those of you that are with us tonight on Zoom. And we'll begin with call for the approval of the minutes. Is our Vice Chairman here this evening?
Chairman, I've read the minutes. I make a motion we approve.
Have a motion to approve those minutes. Have the second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Here.
Commissioner Gammon?
Here.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Here, yes. I was trying to get everybody in here. We do need to read a statement from Governor Bill Lee. This meeting of the Public Safety Committee is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus. Do I have that motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Right. I've also been reminded that in some of our meetings, some individuals haven't been picking up the mic, and be sure to do that when you want to say something, because those that are out there that are listening in, and some of them that are at home on the computer, can't hear us all say anything. And when you do come up here to the well, be sure to speak into the mic, not to the side of it or off to the front somewhere, but be sure to speak into it so we can hear everything you have to say. We'll begin this evening with our juvenile detention report. Good evening, Ms. Duke.
So you have in front of you your report for the month of July. We had a pretty slow month in July, but I'll happily answer any questions. We did have an opportunity to take a look at our yearly stats, and we've been trending this way for a couple of years, but this past fiscal year we had increase in our domestic assaults, and then they were closely followed by aggravated robbery and aggravated assault. But beyond that, we've got a couple of counties who still owe us money, but we don't expect that to be an issue. We should be getting that in the mail prior to next month's meeting.
Any questions for Ms. Duke?
Move to approve as submitted.
Have a motion made by Commissioner Gurley for approval. I have a second. Second by Commissioner Gammon. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you. Paul's report. Mr. Gregory.
For the month of July, you can see that we had 628 animals come into the shelter. Our live release rate for dogs was 93.4%, 91.5% for cats, and that overall should be, number is incorrect, so I'm not going to sit there and guess, but I know that it was, I believe, 91 or 92%. I see a typo there. I apologize for that. We did have 218 animals that were reclaimed from our surgery program, so they've really ramped up to help take care of our overpopulation. And we had 65 cats that were released through our TNR program. You can see on the second page that we ran 1,765 calls received. We completed out 1,810 during the month. and that had us traveling 13,099 miles. The report that you have, the activity report is based on fiscal year, so you only have July thus far, so no cumulative numbers there. The rabies exposure and bite report, you can see that we had 44 bites reported. 4 of those was tested. 1 of those came back as a positive, and then we had 8 other exposures. 1 of those tested, none came back. We do consider an unsatisfactory report. We treat that as a positive. So you'll see down on 713, the positive from the bite was a unsatisfactory report, not necessarily a positive. It's just that they could not test it at the lab based on as it was presented. The other thing that I've been including with your monthly report is the outcome graph, just so visually you can see where we are as far as our live release, our euthanasia, and our other outcomes when it comes to animals within the shelter.
Got a question for you. You're talking about the positive reports that you had come back.
If we could, we'll just go ahead and approve the report, and then I'll bring up the subject.
Okay, but I've got another question I've got for him on this right here.
Okay, I'll
On
be
his
happy to go
report.
ahead.
On his report, and then we'll get to you.
Yeah, Mr. Gregory's aware of an incident that occurred in my district, and we've discussed it quite a bit. But to sum it up real quick, a healthcare worker went into a home and was bitten by a dog and required her to go to the ER. She's going to have plastic surgery to repair her leg. Unfortunately, under our current rules, that dog cannot be removed. The dog was brought in for quarantine, but then returned, if I understand correctly, returned to the owner. And so what I would like to do is, and I'll put it in a form of a motion, is give Mr. Gregory and our attorney 60 days to look at how we can better protect healthcare workers, first responders, and so on, people that are invited into the home, but then the owner has a vicious dog within the premises, or invited onto the property, who don't have a whole lot of choice other than to refuse service, and how we can better protect them in terms of dealing with the dogs so that they don't have to potentially incur multiple bites before we get something done with the dog. And I'm pro animals. I got 2 cats in my house and a dog outside. I love animals, but we cannot have animals biting people with no consequence. So I would like to make a motion that Mr. Gregory and our attorney look at the current rules, how we can best amend those rules to better protect first responders and healthcare workers and any other individual group that you think might apply to that, and then present that to us at the October meeting.
We've had a motion. Is there a second, or is any?
I'll second the motion. Let me just ask Mr. Gregory, is it possible to do something like this? Have you heard of this anyplace else?
I've got to do some more research. Just to give a little bit of background, if I may, Chairman. Is that acceptable, sir?
Yeah, well, for discussion right now,
I don't want to overstep my bounds. So on this particular case, when it comes to our potentially dangerous and dangerous dog ordinance, it's within the Rutherford County rules and regulations that Nick across the street and Daniel take care of prosecuting for us. Every one of the tenants in there says the animal has to be off the property of the owner when that occurs. We've not had a situation such as this, like Commissioner Gurley's talking about, to where this person was invited into the home to provide health care to one of the owners and then get bitten. So it's kind of an area that we've not been in before. For this particular case, though, this dog had been involved in a bite back in April or May, I believe, that was off the property. So now we're trying to go back retroactive to prosecute that as potentially dangerous. But what he's asking for moving forward is for us to see if it's feasible or even legal to make sure that if the person's been invited into the home, well, you've given permission. Now if your dog bites, can that throw up a potentially dangerous dog? Now, to answer your question, it's something I've got to get with Nick and got to do more research on. The ordinance that we have was an ordinance that was in place before I got here, but I have gone back and reviewed that several times over the years and looked at what other municipalities are doing, and I'm not seeing anybody else that has a clause in there, I guess, for invited guests. So we may be one of the first ones to do it. I definitely think it's something that we need to look at, though. If you've got permission to come in the door and the dog gets loose from a back bedroom, ultimately, you're responsible for your animal and some of the repercussions of that. But legally, I don't know where we stand.
If we're plowing new ground
Possibly.
here, is 2 months enough for you?
I'll get with Nick and we'll sure try our best to make that happen. I guess I don't feel like I could answer for him, but I think it's something that we can definitely get a good start on and hopefully get something wrapped up.
Yeah, all I'm asking is for 2 months should initially get our legal department to take a look at overriding state laws, our laws, and take an initial look at it. I would rather take a little longer if it takes that. If it comes back 2 months, I'll be prepared to make another motion to extend this till we can get it right. I wanted to get it right, not quick. And so that if we have to go to court on something like this, we have something that will stand up. So, yes.
I think we can come back with definitely some type of draft to get the motions, the ball rolling on it. So, yes, sir.
Commissioner Gammon?
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with Commissioner Gurley's thought process, but part of me feels like that's an invasion of privacy, even on the homeowner. The kicker is the responsibility ought to go back on the healthcare worker, the company they work for, to issue a statement or a release form that the person they're servicing will cage their animal. I mean, that's the bottom line. I don't know that we need more laws on top of other laws that are already here. I think it's simpler that if the healthcare worker or whoever says, if you got an animal, it's going to be caged or we're not going to service you no matter what your condition is. So it's kind of that simple also to look at, that you put that responsibility back on the healthcare worker or the company they work for, one or the other. But I think we're kind of opening a door if we're not careful.
I think I understand what you're saying there, Commissioner, but I think Commissioner Gurley was also concerned too with the possibility of law enforcement and firefighters too that might have to come in there, or ambulance workers too that might have to walk in on that situation too. So, just to see exactly where we are.
And again, I don't disagree. The problem is, in an emergency situation, you might not have time to cage the dog or something. So what do you do?
Yeah.
Now if
That's
if it's a matter of the animal need to be tested, then maybe that's something that needs to happen. That if it happens within a home, they need to be taken just like an animal outside the home does that, and they quarantine for a little bit for that reason.
Yeah, that's the reason this needs to be studied. I'm fully aware that if you're going into, and it's a firefighter going into a burning building, that animal's going to be scared. So we don't need to include things like that. We need to, but in this particular case, the person supposedly had the dog up, and but they didn't. They didn't contain the dog securely enough, and so we need to. It just needs to be looked at and studied, and from a legal standpoint, and what we can do. But I agree.
Other discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Okay, what I was going to ask you there, Michael, was I noticed here you're showing in the exposures that we've had 3, I think, that have come back positive. Is that not a little bit more than what we have had in past years, or?
I'm not concerned being the fact that we treat them as positives, but they're considered unsatisfactory because for whatever reason they could not be tested. I know that I think we've had one more this month that will be reported next month that came back unsatisfactory as well, and some of those are, the dogs supposedly possibly killed an animal. It was found outside with the heat that we've had. Once it goes to the lab, they can't test it. We did have another skunk that the owner knew that the skunk and the dog had gotten into a fight, but when the dog ultimately killed the skunk, it crushed the skull, or there could be no material to be tested. So I'm not concerned about the unsatisfactories. If we were sitting here going, all of these are positives, then I think that would be a different case. But being that they're unsatisfactory, we can't say if it was a positive or a negative. But for us and for the victim, we have to treat it as though it's positive, since we can't say it was for sure a negative.
All right, I was just looking at the categories listed in positive rabies detail, but when I saw a groundhog there, I just thought that was quite unusual. I've never dealt with a groundhog that was in that situation. I've had some upset, but I never had one mad. So.
No, like I said, if those were all confirmed positive cases, I would be much more alarmed. But being that they're all unsatisfactory, that meant they could not be tested for one reason or another.
Right. Good to straighten that out. You have more in your report, or is that?
Not, sir.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's vote on the report. We haven't voted on the reports yet. Do I have a motion to approve his report?
I so move.
I have a motion to approve. Commissioner Serino, have a second?
Second.
I think Commissioner Phillips got ahead of you right there. For the second, call the roll.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Serino,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
All right. Sheriff's report.
Okay, I have no budget amendments for this month, and in reviewing the budget report, everything appears to be in line for where we are at this time of year.
Any questions, commissioners? Anything that you see there? We're at the very beginning.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner Serino,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Okay, the only other thing I wanted to report is on our cases of COVID at the detention center. Overall, since COVID started, we've had 99 tested positive inmates. We're down to one positive case right now in the jail. We've got 11 tests that are pending, waiting on results to come back, and these normally are new people coming into the facility. We've had 930 negatives, and I've only got one employee out at this point on COVID protocol. So just wanted to report, kind of give you an idea where we were. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Very good. All right, Public Safety Director. Clark.
Of course, at Emergency Management, we are still focused on COVID-19. One of the things that I noticed today in our report was that a couple weeks ago, we were at 11.7 positive tests, and now we're down at 10.97, which is a great thing, and we're starting to see a drop in those numbers. So. Procurement through grants. We have multiple grants going on at the same time, and Kerry Clark's done a wonderful job along with the other team members. We responded to an elderly patient that had been missing, and I was able to be involved with the command post, and we had the Sheriff's Department, Murfreesboro Police Department, THP, the Rutherford County Fire Department. All of them worked in conjunction together to make a successful outcome, and it was good to get out there in the field and see those guys working together for a successful mission. Responded to a potential gas leak at Coleman Elementary School, which turned out not to be so. That's about all I have. Just grateful to be part of this great team.
Any questions for our Public Safety Director?
Mr. Chairman.
Mayor?
Director Clark, any notice from TEMA about both hurricanes coming in?
So we've been eyeing those. I've been getting reports from FEMA. One, I believe Marco is downgraded to a tropical depression, and we're watching Laura out in was it Bahamas or Puerto Rico. We have not had any. There are some warnings that went off into the Keys. However, the mainland right now, I don't believe has a hurricane warning. But they are monitoring. We're getting that information. I'll be glad to pass on this information to you guys as it gets closer and kind of give you a heads up. I spoke with Chief Mark Foltz today concerning mutual aid and responses and in the event that of deployments and things like that. None of those things have come across the state as far as local jurisdictions needing to assist multiple states in the Gulf.
Sure. That'd be good if you just keep the members of this committee kind of in line of what you're doing, what we're doing here in the county to be able to respond.
Move to approve the report, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made to approve. Do I have a second? Second, Commissioner P. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley? Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ambulance. Evening, Director.
All right, the ambulance service appears to be back in service and wide open. For the month of July, we had 3,280 911 calls, 67 hospital transfers, which left us a total, which is setting a record for a number of calls in a month at 3,347 calls. Our response time it went up just a couple points. It went up to 6.7, but I'm not disappointed in that response time. It's still a good response time considering the amount of calls that we had. A lot of those calls were actually being dispatched when they were still at the hospital. When they were getting back in service, they'd just immediately catch another call. So a lot of calls were responding units from out of zone due to the amount of calls that we had. We had 81 deaths that were reported. We received $2,025 from the state payments on those. Out of the 81, 29 were sent for an autopsy. We paid $54,375 for those autopsies, and year to date, we're at 29 autopsies and $54,375 that we pay for autopsies. On collections, we billed $1,740,467. Total collected was $751,106. Year to date is $751,106. Projected collections, year collections is at $9,000,000. $13,272. Our 67% collection rate. Insurance write-off were $608,611. Another write-offs at $946,253. And over on the next page, you will see some of the in-services we've had. And flipping over to the non-emergency side. Oh, before I get into that, you've heard me talk about we're going to be doing CPR classes for all the departments in the county, and Steve has assured me that he will be contacting all the department heads by email for anybody in your department that wants it. I've got about 10 instructors that are ready, and I know for probably since January I've talked about it, and we keep having issues coming up, but he is making this a priority, so all the departments will have CPR training and AED training starting next month. On the non-emergency side, we had 453 calls, 24 were declined. We billed 366,408. We collected 107,452. Year to date is 107,452. Projected collections is yearly collections is at 1,289,424. Got 57% collection rate. Insurance write-off was $175,451. Another write-offs at $30,349. Had two of our paramedics receive the Walmart Life Saving Award, and that was Joe Shannon and Meredith White. And you'll see in the report a little bit about that call, and also a lot of credit goes to the dispatcher that was involved, and that was Jessica Whitley. And on that next page, you'll see their pictures. Also, Rutherford County EMS was mentioned in the Shepherd Center out of Atlanta, Georgia. And it's a real good article. It's the article on the right side of the page about a young man that we had taken care of, and they were bragging about the response time we had and what a difference it made in this young man's life. And that's my report, sir. Oh, also Denise is out of town. I'm just going to let her present a report next month. We are still waiting on the grant that we applied for. I really hope we get it, because we've got some pretty good plans to go along with our forensic side of the business that we do. So hopefully we're going to hear something pretty soon. But she'll give you a full report next month. That's all my report, sir.
Okay, any questions? Have a motion to approve the report?
So moved.
Have a motion made by Commissioner Gammon, second by Commissioner P. Call the roll.
Commissioner Sharino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you, sir. Okay, fire rescue. Evening, Chief.
For the month of August, we had a total of 544 calls. 9 of those were structure fires, 5 of them were vehicle fires. We ran 283 medical calls. We had did 2 searches. Our drone program was always called out to assist the law enforcement, whether it be sheriff's office or whoever. We've had 62 MVAs. 38 of those were accident with injuries. 24 were without injuries. We had 3 extrications, and we did 2 water rescues out at the Persepolis Lake. The total call volume for the year was 3,915 calls, 48 structure fires, 24 vehicle fires. We've had quite a few vegetation fires and illegal burning. For the total year, we've ran 1,982 medical calls. We've had had 14 searches for lost people, 236 MVAs with injuries, 201 without injuries, for a total of 437 MVAs. We did 22 extrications, and we've had 17 water rescues. Total call volume countywide, including the volunteer fire departments. We've had 116 structure fires, 63 brush fires, 70 illegal burns, 53 vehicle fires, 707 MVAs. 25 of those were with extrications. And for a total call volume so far this year, 4,781 calls. The next report is the damaged structures turned into the codes department. The fire investigation report, we had 2 that were accidental. 1 was incendiary. We have obtained warrants and are searching for those suspects. And we did, last month we did 11 get alarm installations. I'd like to remind the public that we do have free smoke alarms. Anybody that needs a free smoke alarm, we have started that back up, and we are installing them. So if you don't know of anybody that does not have them, please let them know that we will be more than happy to come out and install those and provide those free of charge. And that concludes my report.
Smoke alarms, so just county residents?
Well, usually Murfreesboro City is involved in this, and they do them in the city. And I think Smyrna and Laverne's involved in that, but we do them in the county. We did have a lady call me one night, and she was in the city. She thought she lived in the county, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and she called me, and she was the alarm going off, and she was upset she couldn't get stopped. So she called the station. The guys come out there and repaired the issue and installed new smoke alarms. And she called me to apologize. She said, "I found out I live in the city." I said, "It doesn't matter. We were glad to help." She said, "Our guys are real nice," and she woke them up, and they didn't mind a bit coming out. So, it's as long as people get served is all I'm concerned about.
Mr. Chairman.
Questions?
Commissioner P.
Mr.
I was gonna make a motion to approve his report, and then I've got another issue I want to bring up before he leaves.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. A motion made and second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Peete, you.
With the grant money we've been getting from the federal government, the state, most of this is tied directly to help us with our problems with COVID. And one thing I noticed is I think that this grant money, at least some of it, can be used for protective equipment. And of course, we know that PPE for the masks and suits and things like that. But also our firefighters could benefit from these grants, in my opinion, by getting turnout gear. And this turnout gear, of course, would also protect them from this COVID virus. And what I'd like to bring up for discussion, and I'll make a motion that we request turnout gear for our volunteer firefighters from this grant money. The mayor may want to speak on that, but at any rate, I will make a motion that we apply some grant money toward turnout gear for our volunteer firefighters.
Mayor? You have a second?
I'll go ahead and second it, but I have a comment also. I really don't know how turnout gear is going to protect anyone from the COVID virus, no more than wearing a raincoat or anything else, since it's not disposable and it's not directly related to COVID. I wish we could. I would like to. I would love to be able to do that. I really would. But I disagree that it's probably an eligible item. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Gurley, there are two different buckets of money that have come down in the form of grants. One is the local government enhancement grant, which I will recommend to you tonight that we pull from. And then we have the COVID-19 grant that specifically says that it has to be related to COVID-19. And that has a very short window on it, like November 1st, we have to be obligated and have to spend the money. And, you know, it's really going to be hard to spend that kind of money in that very short period of time. But under the local enhancement grant, we have to spend that money by April of 21. Okay. And when Chairman P approached me about that, I started calling all the chiefs, got hold of Chief Farley, who helped me. And I talked to Director Clark as well, trying to get together and ask each one of them to respond to us. Some of the departments came back with some a little bit larger numbers, but I would like to recommend that this committee, Mr. Chairman, look at the suggestion that Director Clark and Chief Farley made, that we go ahead and issue turnout gear, top to bottom turnout gear for all those who have been issued a radio, as opposed to what they think they might have in a training class or what they may have promised. I think it actually shows if they have been issued a radio, then they are trained. So if we go ahead and buy them the turnout gear, it will show, you know, good effort on our part. So the money, we have enough money in this grant to go ahead and make that purchase, along with I believe we got I signed the purchase agreement today for the extrication equipment, and that's going to take 3 months to get in, but 3 to 4 months to get that extrication equipment in. But
so this is that first grant.
That's the first
not
grant.
Limited to COVID-19.
No, sir. It has nothing to do with COVID. So I think we're good here.
Yeah,
yes.
When he mentioned, yeah, okay, not the second grant
Yes,
that
sir.
is strictly tied to COVID.
You know, I'd like to have fire protection countywide, but we just can't afford that right now, and we depend so much on our volunteers to help provide that fire protection. And I think this is a good use of those dollars by taking care of all of our. This includes Eagleville. If you'll look on your the last page of the chief's report, it shows the radios issued to volunteer firefighters from Almaville to Eagleville. That's a total of 93 turnout gears, and that's what, about $2,500, $3,000 a piece.
And if you want to do helmets and boots and everything,
Yes, sir.
Then it's
Yeah.
going to be about $2,810.
Almost
per person.
$3,000 per. I think that'd be huge, you know, to provide our volunteer firefighters with this grant money. It'd be a good effort, you know, good opportunity for us to take care of those guys. It's my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Let me get Commissioner P, if I could first, Commissioner Gammon.
I'm sorry?
He's in the middle of this motion that we've in. Commissioner P, would you just want to change your motion change to this grant?
Yes, I'll adopt the recommendation from the mayor there.
I'll agree with that on the second.
Okay. Now,
however, I will make this statement though, is I know, for instance, Kittrell's got 6 people that are fixing to get their final training. So, you know, there's another 6 people that they don't have money for turnout for. So that's why I was asking for this. You know, we provide protective equipment for our paid firefighters.
Chairman, I think we'll,
so,
Chairman, I think we'll still have some money between now and April left in that grant to take care of some of those that are going to be educated and trained, and a radio issued to them, I would assume.
that sounds good. So I'll let my motion stand as it is.
Just changing the grant.
Recommendation. Yes.
Okay. All right, we're still in discussion now. Commissioner Gammon?
I was on board with what Commissioner P wanted to do. I just didn't know if he had to reiterate the direction the mayor gave, and so I was just going to say I supported it 100%. So.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Any other discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Thank you.
This could mean the difference in life to our firefighters out there, and I think this is going to be very important to, well, volunteers in particular out there, and I appreciate this. All right. Speaking of radios, I believe we're ready for you, Peter.
Real brief tonight. We were able the other week to go ahead and complete all the upgrade of the former SO radios that they had that would work on the new system. So we've got that taken care of. The microwave installs continue to occur. We as well have all the school buses in the county operating on the trunk system, and right now we have great success on that. Dispatches using portables and a base radio, and we're looking at deploying all the EMS units portables next week. So that's where we are at the present day.
One question. The generator at Lynch Hill, where do we stand on that?
So we put it out last year. We have a maintenance contract, and there were some miscommunications where we were going to purchase a generator through our contracted vendor. But when it was said and done with, since the contract was for maintenance only, not a new install, we had to push it to the following year. But right now, it's been the upkeep is still maintaining. The heavy work that we had to do the year before on the water pump is still holding. So that's what we're looking at this coming year, doing another generator if we don't do the federal grant or are able to receive the federal grant.
Yeah, I would like to bring up a point that I've made before. We have 2 counties, adjoining counties, Coffee and Bedford, that reside on that site. And of course, the state's put a lot of effort into reworking that tower a few years back, et cetera, providing battery backup and so on, which our old system was running on and everything. But to my knowledge, I know when I was here for the 4 years, we were never able to get, and I could not get the then mayor to approach the other 2 counties. For the last 15 to 20 years, they've basically been getting a free ride there on a site that would cost them quite a bit. They've not had to maintain the road, they've not had to maintain the generator, they've not had to maintain the building or anything. They're just there. And I think on something that benefits them like it benefits us, then we should probably, and I'm directing this to Mr. Mayor as well as to you, Peter, that we should probably approach. I know it may not be a good time, but at the same time, it might be a good time with a lot of these grants coming around, like we just utilized to buy firefighter protective equipment, because it's essential for that site to keep going for the state of Tennessee and Rutherford County and the 2 other counties. Right.
Right now, so in the past 2 years, we've had to do work on the road twice a year. And one of those has been a gravel drop throughout pretty much the entire road.
Yeah, and like I said, I know the 4 years that I was here, they paid nothing on maintenance, and so I really think it's really not being mean or anything, but to ask them to share in the common infrastructure maintenance.
Peter, could you give me some information as far as how much they actually use that infrastructure, each one of those two counties, so I could properly address that in some type of request letter to share percentage-wise?
Yeah, so we'll look at what they have hung on the tower in a sense of antennas, and then the other half of that would be power. We can figure that out through the amperage of what they're running.
Sure.
So we can work some rough numbers. There's a calculation that Middle Tennessee Electric gives us for the towers we rent space on, and it's very reasonable for what we're paying. That's not something to say that we couldn't look at their matrix of how they get those numbers and do the same thing.
Well, if that's the will of the committee, I'll be happy to compose that letter and send to them. I would like to have some direction from the committee, if that's what you want me to do. Be happy to.
I'll get that together.
I just think it's long overdue. They've gotten a long ride, and it's time when budgets are getting tighter that everybody pays their fair share.
That's all I have.
Okay, anything else? If not, motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Thank you, sir. We have Osha, I think, is on here.
Okay, pass.
All right, the report for Osha is on the iPad. I think you had, was on the SharePoint. I hope you've had an opportunity to read through that. If you'd like to take a moment to look through it. Anyone have any questions on that report? Ed Elam was supposed to have presented that, but he had got some other things got him tied up. He can't be here.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed that report. It is uneventful, and I move to approve.
All right, got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Sherino, call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. All right, Recovery Court report. Reading.
As you can see, in the month of July, we accepted 16 new participants. Currently, we have 120 participants. We also have, previous to his passing, Commissioner Irvin had set up for us to begin HISET classes and financial literacy classes at our office. I did get some formalized HISET classes lined up through the Rutherford County Adult Education. They will actually start coming in tomorrow and helping some of our guys and gals get their HISET. I'm working on a financial literacy piece through Fifth Third Bank, where they will come in and teach budgeting, how to balance a checkbook, the basics of things that many of our clients don't know how to do, and try to get them in a better place. So we're waiting on the MOU on that. We had Veterans Court graduation on August 12th, and I want to thank everybody, all of the elected officials that came and sat through that in the sunshine. We are still waiting to hear back from some grants. We had filed for a extension on our SAMHSA grant, and then also filed for a DUI expansion grant for our DUI court, and have not heard from that yet. We do anticipate hearing something from that shortly. And then also in the last month since I've seen you, all of our case management sat down and did our state mandatory 10-RISE training, which is a high-risk, high-need assessment that we utilize for placement in our programming per the state regulations. And that's my report.
Okay. Any questions? I believe you did a good job. Do I have a motion to approve the report? Have a motion to approve it. Commissioner Gammon, do I have a second? Second. Commissioner Phillips, call the roll.
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you. All right. Probation report. Good evening.
Hey, for our July revenue, for our July expenditures, that totaled $85,469.38. Total collections from the clerk's office with general sessions and circuit court combined was $15,323.42. So that gave us a total revenue for the month of July at $35,333.93. Our expenditures again was $85,469.38 for a difference of $50,129.45. The total amount of payment agreements that were sent to the clerk's office totaled $11,686.50. Those that failed to enter a payment agreement totaled $12,742, and the totals below, of course, would be for the fiscal year, which would both be the same as I just stated.
Any questions on the report?
Motion to approve the report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner P makes the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have the second. Call the roll.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you. Right, Correctional Work Center.
In front of you should have the report for this month. And in that is our Correctional Work Center board meeting. A couple things that we talked about during that meeting. If you'll flip over a couple pages, you'll see those pictures. They may or may not show up very well. But we were given a call talking about some trash out on Elam Mills Road, and we went out and picked that up, and you can see those pictures there. And I know we've been talking several months now about the mayor's been wanting to give teeth to our litter fines, and this will just kind of give you an idea of what kind of stuff's out there that we're being given calls on, usually weekly, to go out and pick up. And we're talking about, if you'll take a look in there, there's whole bedroom suits and living room suits and everything out there in that one little spot. But that'll give you kind of an idea. It looks like they picked up approximately 10,360 pounds of trash just in that one little area over about a 3 or 4 day period.
We'll move on to the work release program, which is going well. All of our positions are currently filled. Next up is going to be our yearly activity report. Our population is slowly moving back up, which is a good thing that allows us to put more workers out on the streets. And we were able to save the county and local municipalities about $76,000 this past month. Or, I'm sorry, that was month of June, and July, $81,864. Next, you'll see in there, 2 years ago, I think, Mayor, we had talked about starting up a Mechatronics Program, and the money that we hoped to get from state funding just wasn't there at the time, and we put it in our budget originally this last time, and then the whole COVID thing hit. So we ended up taking it out of our budget. And the mayor asked that I revisit that and get a quotation for the actual physical training aids, and that we may be able to look at paying for that out of that local enhancement grant. So that is included in there also. And that is the end of our report.
Okay. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you, Director Cope, Superintendent Cope, for bringing that up. The Mechatronics, as all of you know, we tried to get that in. We actually went to see the governor 2 years ago, I believe, to see if he could put this in, because he really is very interested in I guess reform as far as our judicial system is concerned, trying to get those guys who have been incarcerated and trying to get them out, because once we let them out, they end up going back to the same location and doing the same thing and getting reincarcerated, so the recidivism rate never stops. And if we were to do this, they just didn't have the money. And here's an opportunity that this commission has, is to help Superintendent Cope and his department, is to buy this Mechatronics equipment. They've been using that at Oakland High School for several years and won several awards off of it for those people. But we could take this same equipment. It would be a pilot, and taking it in the criminal justice system and training these guys and giving them the opportunity to get a certificate to actually come out of serving their time, where they could actually have a Siemens certification, to where they could, in mechatronics, they could get out, get a job, get a place to live, and buy some sort of transportation. That's the biggest problem, is after they've served their time and you all release them, they get out and they don't have any way to bring in any source of income, because they have a record, and then they can't get transportation. If you don't live right next to Rover, you can't get to work to make the money. It's just it's a ever revolving cycle that seems to be never ending for these folks. If we were to do this and put in this Mechatronics program, this would be the first in the state of Tennessee, and I dare say it'll be the first in the entire country. We could really shine and show the governor how to stop this cycle of recidivism by getting these guys trained. So I would hope that you ask the questions and would support this, so we can get this. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to have this windfall of this grant money, which we still have enough grant money to do what we're doing. It's just been really, really good for us. But it's stimulating the economy as well, and that's what was intended by the governor and the General Assembly when they gave us this large amount of money.
We have any insight as to potential employers?
What?
Because I'm concerned that some employers that might be in this more specialized where they're prohibited from hiring people with a record and so on. Of course, most of those people only have a misdemeanor conviction, I would assume, if they're in your facility for the most part.
Well, we are actually, of course, times have changed, and a lot of the offenders that we have are doing split sentences, so they're felons and misdemeanors. But I would like to mention, back to originally what you were asking, Commissioner Gurley, is that about the employers. The employers a lot of times receive benefits for hiring felons or someone with a record. Now, with our work release program that we currently have, several of those employers already have positions that are requiring these certificates. So we were putting the guys to work over there at baseline positions, but they're unable to advance because they don't have these certifications. And I'm going to tell kind of a funny story, but just probably a couple months ago, I got a call from one of the guys who was in that program, that work release program, and had lost his job because he didn't have a car. And so he gave me a call one morning and asked if I could, find him some help and get him back on his feet. And so I had to go over to the Knights Inn, and just so happens I was there when the mayor called, and I said, well, I'm sitting over here at the Knights Inn, and the mayor said, do I even want to know why? And so we were actually over there trying to, and I paid for it out of my own pocket to make sure that this guy had another night before he got kicked out and was out on the street. But if we were able to put him in a program, and he was the perfect candidate, if we were able to put him in a program, something like this, he would have been able to make more money, excel while he was locked up, and then have some money when he got out. So he could sustain an automobile and a home and some of the other things.
You thoroughly answered my question. I just was concerned that we train someone and then not have a place for them to go. But if you've already looked ahead, it sounds like you have. We have a place for them to go. I'm all for it.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. P.
Couple of questions. One is who would be teaching the course? And two, what is the ongoing cost once we purchase the initial machinery or lessons or whatever it is we'd have to purchase?
Commissioner P., the component, the physical component is what the price that we've been quoted here would get us the actual equipment, the training module to use, and that would be ours, belong to the county. Now, we would have to hire an instructor, but there are some funds out there through places like Tennessee College for Applied Technology that are willing to help us out, and maybe
Motlow.
Give us a part-time teacher that we could possibly get for a pretty decent price. And as far as the testing is concerned, there's a one-time $30 application fee, and then each component is of the test. Each certification is an additional $50. And I've been doing programs for, I don't know, 20 years in the county. There were times when I've got out here and had to beg for money from places and get GEDs paid for and everything else. So I think one way or another we'll be able to find a way to pay for the testing.
I understand that, but I just I'm in full support of us doing this, but I just want a good handle on what it's going to cost us ongoing in the next few years if we continue it, and it is a success, which we all would hope that it would be. So if you would kind of find out what an instructor would cost us ongoing at least that much. You know, I understand depending on how many people would go through the course is how much testing would be done, but you'll get a feel of that, I assume. But like I said, the instructor cost is the main thing that concerns me, I guess, just ongoing cost.
Okay, I can do that.
Mr. Gammon, did you have a?
I was just going to say, I'd been on the workhouse board for a good number of years, and I was involved in the programs where people got hired, you know, accepting, denying, or what their qualifications were. And it's just been an extremely successful program. I know there's businesses out there, people that I know that are involved in those businesses that are just begging, you know, to get the help out there. There's, you know, the workforce is there. And again, it goes back, without me beating this horse, is that a lot of it has to do with the opportunity, transportation, and all these other things, and start becoming somewhat of a skilled person. I mean, they did that with, you know, the little trucks and all. I mean, there's a number of things they've done to teach people, and they've stuck with the program very well. And they have collected and built quite a bit of money while they're in the Correctional Work Center, very successfully. I mean, thousands of dollars, not just a couple, while they're taking care of what they owe, child support or whatever. So I don't know where we're supposed to go tonight with this, but I'm 100% on board to move forward. And even if it is a pilot program in that sense, I think it would show us, again, as a leader, and I can concur with Commissioner P's thought process, but I know that Superintendent Cope and his staff's going to be out there, and they'll stay on top of this thing. I have full faith in them. So I don't know if a motion needs to be made, move forward, or more review. I don't know, but if that's it, I'll make a motion, we move forward.
I'd like to have a motion.
Okay. I think we'll have to have a motion to go from here.
I'll second that.
So you're making that a motion? Yes. Okay, and I had a second over here from Commissioner Gurley. Process of that and going on with the placing this from the grant. Call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner Sharino,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. And then we got to have a motion to approve his report.
Move.
I have the motion from Commissioner Sharino. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Commissioner Gurley, call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharino,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Okay, sir.
And Chairman, if I could just mention one other thing while Director Hudgens is in here. About 4 years ago, my wife and I adopted our youngest son, and it kind of brought some of our family that was spread out here to Rutherford County. And about a year ago or so, my in-laws, my mother-in-law, who was helping us, Mayor, with the bagging of the
Yeah, we're going to do that again.
well, she was, you remember, she was the little
That's
short
correct.
lady. Well, a couple weeks ago, she, surprisingly enough, was changing out a smoke alarm, and she fell off of a footstool and broke her neck.
Oh.
And so a couple of these first responders that work for EMS responded, and I have to say that without a doubt, we have the best first responders that I can absolutely say in the state. And she was just so impressed with them. And my wife was very thankful because they did get her to the hospital. They had to transport her on to Nashville and do emergency surgery. But I just wanted to mention these two first responders, Heather Tate and Brandon Smith, and commend them publicly for that and say thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have.
You're totally right.
All right.
They are the best. All right, we're down to other business. Mayor?
Ed showed up. Is he prepared for the OSHA report?
Okay. We done approved it, but you can come on up and give us the details.
Just for the record.
I can say you're safe.
Chairman Reed,
Yes, sir.
gentlemen.
Thank you. Name dropper.
Yep, name dropper, that's right. All right, for the month of July, you have a total of 8 accidents. You have on your accident frequency calendar year-to-date, you have 82. OSHA log summary, you have total of 60. Restricted day claims, you have 39. Lost day claims, you have 10. Other recordables, you have 11. Next graph, you see on the job injury claims. Year-to-date, 2018, 135. Year-to-date 2019 was 145. And year-to-date 2020 is 82. Next graph, on-the-job injury dollars incurred. You'll see where the year-to-date's 2018 is 311. Year-to-date 2019 is 268,000. And year-to-date 2020 is 340,000. I will bring to your attention, when you look at the graph for the month of July, you will see that you don't have anything for 2019, and that is because Collins and Company came in July 1, and in the month of July, they did not do any billing on claims. They were just sorting all the claims out that came in. So there is a notation there that, well, not on this one, but on the 266 fund, there's a notation showing that Collins Company in 2019 did not pay claims for that month. Just trying to sort everything out and make sure the claims were right and that they didn't double pay any claims from our previous vendor. Moving to the cause of injuries, Board of Education had 5, County General had 3. In the County General, the Sheriff had 1, Paul's had 1, EMS had 1. And that is my report.
Okay, sir. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Elam? If not, sir, we thank you.
Thank you. Y'all had a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Sure. Any other business? If not, I declare this meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir.